On to other matters now. We're going to be talking about electric vehicles. Joining us to do that is Howard Cox, founder of Fair Fuel UK and member of Reform UK. Howard, how are you doing?
I'm fine, Alex. Lovely to see you. Can I just say that it's great to see Craig McKinley back. He's actually chair of the Fair Fuel UK APPG. I'm secretary to, and I think motorists will be wishing him well. To continue fighting on behalf of drivers.
Yeah, a remarkable recovery from that man, and just sort of walking into Parliament to that well-deserved standing ovation. I think the thing that really stands out to me is his spirit and his attitude through all of this. It really is commendable.
Oh, he's a very good man. Very good man indeed.
Now, electric cars, Howard, in theory, by, I think it's 2030, is it 80-odd% of vehicles being sold by, I think it might be more than that, might be 88% of vehicles being sold by motor manufacturers have to be electric ones, yet the general public just don't want them. They cost a fortune. They're loads of money to insure. I still sort of wonder what on earth went on in that. Was it Luton Airport car park when an electric vehicle burst into flames and brought down the entire structure and every vehicle in it? I was speaking to a motoring journalist a while ago, and he thinks that electric vehicles are going to be a bit like the CD. They'll be popular for all of about 10 years, and then we'll have biofuels, and the good old combustion engine will outlast it. What do you reckon?
Well, I've regularly said, and I first said on Mike Graham's show about 3 years ago, EVs are going to be the Betamax of transport. They work, but I'm afraid they're not going to be very popular. And what we're seeing now is a classic example of the fact. I mean, I actually drive a hybrid, so when I'm driving at lower speeds, about 25, 30 mile an hour, that sort of thing, my car becomes an electric vehicle, and it goes very quiet. And I've seen firsthand people not hearing me coming along the road. They put their feet out into the road and suddenly turn around and see me. It is dangerous, and we've warned the government about this situation before, and I thought they were going to put some policy by putting some noise. Some sort of noise thing, an amplifier under the bonnet, which actually matches a fossil fuel engine.
It's not just about the fact that they sneak up on you a bit like the trams of Brussels. They also did that, but also like the trams of Brussels. They weigh a fair amount, don't they, these electric vehicles? Is it about twice the weight?
Yeah. Well, it's about 30% more.
30% more.
It depends on the vehicles. The smaller electric vehicles are considerably heavy ratio to a petrol or diesel smaller vehicle. But when you get to the sort of average family car, you're looking at 30, maybe 40% more, because the batteries are a huge tonnage.
And in terms of, I mean, in that respect, if they happen to hit you, even going at a low speed, they're going to cause probably a guaranteed fatality. Is this part of the 20 mile per hour rollout? The fact that at 20 miles per hour, councils aren't as liable for if people have issues with potholes. In fact, these vehicles are probably responsible for turning our roads into something that looks like churned up cottage cheese. But also that, even at low speeds, these things can inflict a great amount of damage because of that extra weight.
You're absolutely right, Alex. I mean, this is the problem. Not only this, obviously we're being told that they're good for the planet, they're going to save the planet, all these sorts of things. But from cradle to grave, we produced a report with the Alliance of British Drivers and the Motorcycle Action Group, Fairfield UK. We put out this report. It's now with their MPs that shows that from cradle to grave, there is more emissions produced from electric vehicles than there are from production of petrol and diesel vehicles. Yes, on the road, they are cleaner. There's no exhaust emissions. But from actually producing, and bear in mind the slave labour and all the things that go around producing lithium and the various other minerals actually to make batteries, and all the way to the disposal of the battery, we're looking at 70% more emissions. Go figure.
Yeah, I mean, minerals, Philip, that largely are now almost exclusively owned by the Chinese.
Yes, 90% of the rare earth metal mines across the globe are owned by the Chinese, including ones that are in Australia and elsewhere, to the point where the US Department of Defense is so concerned they're opening non-economically viable rare earth metal resources so that they can supply their defence industry.
So essentially, in sort of this huge drive to net zero where we want to get rid of the combustion engine, it seems, within about a decade or so, you're writing a blank cheque to China to dominate a market.
Oh, very much so, and China's doing that. They're producing the cheapest, and for EVs, they're pretty good. the quality that they're bringing in, but they're flooding the market with these, and of course they're all connected to the net, and they're all watching everything that you're doing all the time. It's all part of and can be integrated into a much bigger, wider surveillance program. People have to realise that all of this is connected, and that this connectivity is not good when you've got countries that want to watch everything.
Howard, what do people feel about buying electric vehicles? I mean, the last thing I read, people weren't particularly keen on doing so. They'd rather stick to a petrol engine. I mean, not for one main reason, that electric vehicles seem to cost an arm and a leg.
Well, obviously that, and also there's the range anxiety situation. Why? How long you've got to wait? You've got to plan. If you're going on a long journey, forget electric vehicles. You know you're going to lose 2 to 3 hours of that journey sitting somewhere in a motorway service station, charging up, those sorts of things. I mean, I think the electric vehicle will slowly decline. I think there will be some common sense. I do worry about a new Labour government because they're going to be still brainwashing us on the fact of net zero. And I hope, obviously, as you know, you mentioned that I'm part of Reform UK. I just hope we can have some influence and actually getting some common sense, get rid of net zero and get back to things like Euro 7 and Euro 8 diesel and petrol. We're currently on Euro 6 and Euro 7 and Euro 8 were being developed. And people forget that in the last 10 years, emissions in petrol and diesel vehicles, particularly HDV vehicles, have halved. I mean, that hasn't been, there's no headline to tell you that. If we carried on the next 10 years, they'd halve again. And let's face it, London, for example, and I'm pretty au fait with this, is the 12th cleanest city in the world out of 180 capitals. But why do we need to do more things? ULEZ, you name it, 20 mile an hour, LTNs, we can go on forever. So that's why Fairfield UK, I'm relaunching that and really attacking the Labour government. So watch this space.
Yeah, Howard, you've always been a champion for motorists. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Howard, they're saying he's worried about a Labour government coming in and all these net zero targets. But surely Boris Johnson's already signed us up to the lot of it through international treaty, and good old international law is going to kick in if anyone tries to defy COP, whatever it was.
He has. And, all of the other countries that are out there going, oh, we may have signed something, but we're just going to ignore it. UK will, if it tries to ignore it, then get taken to court and will pay whatever the court fines are and everything else that we, the taxpayer, will have to pay more for it. So it's false economy across the board. We have to stop. We have to make our own rules and follow our own rules. And there's too much of us pandering to what's going on around the world.
Yeah, I mean, Howard, if someone's sitting there with a petrol car and they hear of all these net zero targets and they're sort of wondering whether or not they should move to an electric vehicle, what would you be telling them to do right now?
Well, I wouldn't move to an electric vehicle. I get a petrol. In fact, even a Euro 6 diesel is even cleaner than the petrol vehicle. The problem we have at the moment is the pressure on manufacturers from government with these draconian targets in terms of manufacturing numbers. That's the sort of thing. We've got to have some common sense. All I can say to you is that I'm just about to launch results of a survey. We've got about 37,000 responses of drivers. And I can tell you now, only 3% of them are going to be buying EVs.
Well, there you go. Clearly not a big winner when it comes to the car buying public, but someone who is a big winner when it comes to car buying public, no doubt, is Howard Cox, founder of Fair Fuel UK.